Hi there, warriors. It's the Spirit Warrior, not just my hands. So, some big decisions have been made. You may remember that I, with much fanfare, started a second channel called The Warrior Tribe, which is probably what you're watching this on now. And I promised newsletters and videos and all sorts of things. And I knew I was biting off a whole lot, probably more than I can chew when I decided to do that. And that became the truth. It all came crashing down in some technical issues and lack of time and reality crashing in. So for those who subscribed and joined my newsletter and all that, I really appreciate your support and I'm sorry I let you down. But we've decided to ride again. The Spirit Warrior Tribe is back on the trail, but in a different form. And it's just going to be some me speaking to you via YouTube. And we'll see where it goes and what happens to it as it goes along. But today I wanted to talk to you about the recent few days, which have included the lunar eclipse and the new moon and all of that. And maybe you've experienced what I experienced, which is a pretty, well, in tarot terms, you call it a tower moment. Some cataclysmic occurrences in my life have forced me into making some changes. And changes I knew were coming, but changes I had resisted. And so also I watch a YouTube channel called the Divinely Aligned channel, which is a uh, channel by Courtney. And she has told me now is the time to create on YouTube. And so here I am. And this is probably a pretty big moment in my life because today I've decided to let out the truth bombs. I really can honestly say I've probably lived a lie I'm 67. For 67 years, I've lived a lie. And many of us who are spiritually aligned may live that lie because for many years I've hidden what I am and who I am. And for six, for 60 years of my life, I tried to live according to other people's rules and the rules of society. And I can tell you it was an abject failure. It took me well into my 60s to discover that I wasn't wired for that kind of life. And, if trauma was a sport, I would be a champion because my life has been full of trauma and disaster and you name it, I've been through it. Difficult childhood, sickness, illness, divorce, engagement breakups, car accidents, ill health. I've had bowel surgery. You name it, I've had it. And maybe if it was an Olympic sport, I'd be a gold medalist. But even through all that until this point today, I have concealed my feelings about the universe, God, the divine, and I've hid it from people, particularly during my marriage, where I was ridiculed for my beliefs. But just before the turn of the century, there came a radical moment, and that was that my Kundalini awakening began. So, Kundalini is really a cleansing of all of trauma and pain and suffering that you've experienced in life and maybe in earlier lives. And it really does clear your chakras and your life and all of that. And it went on for many years. Whilst I was married, it was a very slow pace, but I got divorced in 2018 and I went on a round the world trip in 2019. And when I came back, all hell broke loose. And Kundalini started stripping my life of all the trauma. And as I've just said, there's heaps of it to clear. And really, what happens is you end up reliving or re-experiencing the trauma, and it can be a difficult circumstance. So much so that I didn't work for 5 years because there was so much shit in my life that I just couldn't cope. And the only way that I could manage was to just devote my life to getting through this difficult time. And of course, not working for 5 years is a financial disaster. And so this is where this point has led to me, is that 2 years ago, I had to start, I kind of came through the other end, and I started doing Uber Eats to survive, to put food on my table. And I've been doing it for a couple of years, and it's been a blessing because it's kept my life going. But I've been living on the edge of financial ruin ever since. And now my life is starting to rebalance, and I'm really ready for the next phase. And the universe told me a few weeks ago that I needed to detach from doing Uber Eats, because in reality, it was a blessing to start with. But after a period of time, what it does is it hooks you into a very restricted paradigm of financial experience, because it doesn't pay a whole lot, and you know you only receive for what you work. And what it does, it makes you calculate every little cent. What it does is it drags you down into a poverty mindset, which is the truth for me. And then, of course, as I said, I had a message that I needed to detach from that. And that's come to a head in the last week with this solar eclipse and new moon. And all of a sudden, when I tried to work, I was beset by illness and ill feeling. And then I started to have car troubles. And I thought it was a flat battery. I got a new battery, and it all went well for a while. And the last 2 days, disaster struck again. And so today, I made a decision that's been coming for a while, and is the scariest decision I made in my life. And it hinges on the fact that the universe has told me to receive more, I've got to work less. Now, if you lived, or you live in the current society, you know that we live to work, or we work to live, or we actually do live to work. And what it is, we solve the equation that what we receive is dependent on our work. And this is a relationship, or um, an equation that keeps most of the planet frozen into a very sort of limited paradigm of financial abundance and experience. And so when you say, or when the universe tells you that you've got to stop work, and then you wonder where's the money going to come from, that is a challenging experience. And that's what I've been going through today, is that I've decided not to work today, and I've got bills mounting up, and I've been told to allow the divine to manage my life. Now, I can tell you that my ego is freaking out, but my soul, or my inner energy, is saying that's the right path. So maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'll tell you how it went out. But the truth is, there's many videos about the law of attraction, the law of assumption, and living in the 5D, which are the methods of attracting what you want into your life on YouTube. And many of them treat this creation or attraction, like um, speaking a spell, like that that a mantra will create the wealth and bring it into your life. But the truth is that the, the path to abundance and prosperity through attraction means that you actually have to change within. You actually have to change the energy that you emanate or you radiate. Radiate's a better word, isn't it? And if you listen closely, when questions of money come up, you'll find you have indeed a set point, like a baseline energy. And if you're honest and truth with yourself, in most cases, for most people, that is driven by lack and worrying about money. When in truth, you have to be in a positive state of I am abundant and I am worthy and I will receive, even when the physical um, evidence is that that's not the case. So you go and look in your bank account and it's got $5 in it, and then you fall into that negative energy that says that indeed you are poor, and that drags you down and drags you out of the energy you need to attract the abundance and prosperity that you truly desire. So most people would say that having an imagined idea or trying to radiate an energy that is vastly different from your experience is fantasy, and that you're not living in the real world, because the real world says that you have to work to receive money. But the truth is that you're not living a fantasy. What you're doing is changing your energy. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you're being deluded. What it says is that you're dialing up your frequency. So it's like changing the channel on your radio or your TV. You tune into a different channel. So channel 1 is lack, poverty, and oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills? And channel 10 is, oh my God, there's all this money in my life. And that's what we all want, isn't it? And I can say there have been times in my life that I've tuned into channel 10 and it's been amazing. But there's also been plenty of times in my life I've tuned into channel 1. And obtaining and maintaining that consistency requires a fair amount of personal change and belief and effort. So I guess the message is it's time to watch this channel. It's time to see if I can tune into channel 10 rather than being channel 1, which is where I've been in for the last 2 years. And so this is a weird and wild experiment. I will talk about other things. I will reveal to you my traumas and my experiences of life. And I hope you find it interesting and rewarding. And I'd love to hear your comments below. And I think we'll call it a wrap. And this is the Spirit Warrior signing out. Ciao.